"This coffee is terrible." Omar Al-Rashid's voice boomed across the outdoor terrace of Café Lumière, his gold Rolex catching the morning sunlight as he slammed the delicate porcelain cup down, hard enough to send Ethiopian blend splashing across the white linen tablecloth. The 45-year-old Arab millionaire's outburst shattered the peaceful atmosphere where Beverly Hills elite typically conducted their quiet business meetings, drawing startled looks from other patrons who had never witnessed such a dramatic display at the exclusive establishment. What Omar didn't know was that Maya Johnson, the 28-year-old black waitress who had served him with professional courtesy despite his condescending attitude, held a master's degree in chemical engineering and had spent 3 years working for a specialty coffee company, where she had developed award-winning roasting profiles used by cafés across the country. The outdoor terrace of Café Lumière had been designed as an oasis of sophistication in Beverly Hills, with perfectly manicured gardens featuring exotic orchids and Japanese maples, imported Italian marble tables positioned for optimal privacy, and a carefully curated clientele of entertainment executives, real estate moguls, and tech entrepreneurs who valued both exclusivity and prestige in their professional interactions. The establishment's reputation for excellence had been built methodically over 15 years through obsessive attention to every detail of the customer experience, from single-origin coffee beans sourced directly from small family farms in remote mountain regions to European-trained staff who understood the subtle art of serving wealthy clients with the precise balance of deference, discretion that their status demanded. The morning rush at Café Lumière typically attracted the city's most influential decision-makers, individuals whose casual conversations could determine the fate of billion-dollar entertainment projects or reshape entire neighborhoods through strategic real estate development. The atmosphere had been intentionally crafted to encourage networking and deal-making, with tables positioned to provide intimate privacy, while also allowing for the subtle displays of status and success that characterized interactions among the wealthy and powerful. The soft murmur of important conversations created a backdrop of understated influence that made the establishment a preferred destination for those who shaped the cultural and economic landscape of Southern California. Omar had chosen this particular cafe specifically because its exclusivity and premium prices aligned perfectly with his expectations for how his considerable wealth should be acknowledged and respected, having recently acquired controlling interest in several California real estate developments that had made him one of the most influential property developers on the West Coast. His business empire had been built through a calculated combination of inherited oil wealth from his family's extensive Middle Eastern holdings and aggressive real estate speculation that had taken ruthless advantage of California's chronic housing shortage to generate enormous profits from luxury developments that catered to international investors and celebrity clients. The combination of old money prestige inherited from generations of oil wealth and new money aggression acquired through his American business ventures had created a complex personality that demanded constant validation of his importance and expertise, particularly in areas where he often lacked genuine knowledge or experience. His need to assert dominance through public displays of wealth and criticism reflected deep-seated insecurities about his position among California's truly established elite, whose family fortunes often traced back multiple generations and who had developed more refined and subtle methods of displaying their status and influence in social situations. His morning routine typically involved holding court at premium establishments where other wealthy individuals would recognize his status and importance, and where service staff would compete to demonstrate their appreciation for his generous tips and exacting standards. The public nature of his current outburst reflected not just arrogance, but also a fundamental insecurity about his acceptance among the genuinely sophisticated elite who frequented these exclusive venues. The coffee that had triggered his explosive reaction was actually a rare Jamaican Blue Mountain blend that cost the cafe $48 per pound wholesale and was prepared using precision brewing methods that required extensive training and specialized equipment to execute properly. The beans had been grown at 5,000 feet elevation in volcanic soil that provided optimal mineral content, harvested at peak ripeness by experienced workers who could identify the perfect moment for picking, and roasted to exact specifications just 48 hours earlier by a master roaster whose work was celebrated by coffee connoisseurs worldwide. The brewing process involved water heated to precisely 195 degrees Fahrenheit, with a specific mineral content of 150 parts per million total dissolved solids, creating the ideal chemical environment for extracting the complex flavor compounds that made this particular blend so highly valued among serious coffee enthusiasts. The barista had ground the beans using a precision burr grinder to ensure uniform particle size distribution, then executed a 4-minute and 30-second extraction that achieved exactly 22% yield, falling perfectly within the optimal range established by the Specialty Coffee Association. The irony of Omar's complaint was profound and multifaceted. He had specifically requested the most expensive coffee on the menu, automatically assuming that price directly correlated with his personal preferences, without understanding that premium specialty coffee often emphasized complexity, subtlety, and unique origin characteristics, rather than the bold, simple, and familiar flavors that characterize the commercial coffee he was actually accustomed to drinking at home and in his office. His lack of genuine experience with specialty coffee meant that he was reacting negatively to exactly the sophisticated qualities, the bright acidity, floral notes, and complex finish that made this particular blend valuable and sought after by serious coffee connoisseurs and industry professionals. His confident complaints about quality revealed the gap between his assumed expertise based on wealth and travel and his actual knowledge of coffee production, processing, and preparation. The dramatic nature of his reaction suggested someone more familiar with the heavily processed, over-roasted, and often stale coffee served at luxury hotels and expensive restaurants, where the focus was on consistency and broad appeal rather than showcasing the unique characteristics of exceptional beans. Maya had served hundreds of cups of this exact coffee over the past 6 months, and her extensive knowledge of coffee chemistry and production allowed her to recognize immediately when the brewing process had been executed flawlessly, as it certainly had been this morning. Her master's degree in chemical engineering had included specialized coursework in food science and beverage chemistry, providing her with a deep understanding of the molecular processes that created flavor, aroma, and mouthfeel in coffee that exceeded the expertise of most professional baristas, cafe owners, and even some coffee roasters in the industry. Her educational background had been funded through a challenging combination of academic scholarships, student loans that would take years to repay, and demanding part-time work that had extended her studies from the typical 4 years to 6, because she had needed to support herself financially while maintaining the exceptional academic performance necessary to succeed in one of the most rigorous and competitive engineering disciplines. The technical skills and analytical thinking she had developed through years of studying complex chemical processes and molecular interactions had prepared her for a promising career in industrial chemistry or pharmaceutical development. However, the economic recession that had coincided with her graduation had severely limited opportunities in her field, forcing her to accept service employment while she saved money and searched for positions that would utilize her advanced education and specialized skills. The transition from engineering work to service employment had been emotionally challenging for Maya, who had invested years developing sophisticated expertise, only to find herself serving coffee to people who automatically assumed she lacked education, intelligence, or professional capability based solely on her current job title and work uniform. The psychological impact of this professional displacement was compounded by the daily experience of being treated dismissively by customers who possessed far less technical knowledge than she had acquired through years of rigorous academic study and practical application in laboratory settings. The irony was not lost on her that many of the wealthy customers who spoke to her in condescending tones had never encountered the kind of complex scientific concepts that she had mastered during her engineering education. Her work experience in the specialty coffee industry had begun during her final year of graduate school, when she had taken a part-time position at a boutique roasting company to help cover her living expenses and reduce her reliance on student loans. What had started as simple employment to pay bills had evolved into genuine fascination with the intricate chemistry of coffee production, leading her to apply her engineering knowledge to optimize roasting profiles and extraction methods in ways that significantly improved flavor quality and consistency for the company's products. Her systematic approach to understanding coffee chemistry had impressed her supervisors at the roasting company, who had encouraged her to experiment with different roasting curves, grinding techniques, and brewing parameters to develop innovative approaches to coffee preparation. Her ability to analyze the chemical reactions occurring during roasting and extraction had led to the development of several proprietary techniques that had won national recognition and had been adopted by other specialty coffee companies seeking to improve their product quality. The recognition she had received within the coffee industry for her technical innovations had provided some professional satisfaction during a difficult period of career transition, but it also highlighted the frustration of working in service positions, where her expertise and achievements remained invisible to customers, who judged her capabilities based on assumptions about service workers' educational backgrounds and intellectual abilities. "This is completely unacceptable," Omar continued, his voice rising as he gestured dramatically at the spilled coffee, while other patrons tried to maintain their conversations despite the disruption. "I've traveled all over the world, from the coffee plantations of Colombia to the cafés of Vienna, and I know what good coffee tastes like. This swill wouldn't be acceptable at a roadside diner, let alone at an establishment that charges these ridiculous prices for what should be a simple beverage." His characterization of the premium coffee as swill demonstrated the profound disconnect between his confident assessment and his actual knowledge of coffee quality, because his complaints were based entirely on personal preference and unfamiliarity rather than any objective evaluation of brewing technique, bean quality, or preparation standards. His extensive international travel, which he cited as evidence of his coffee expertise, had indeed exposed him to various coffee cultures and preparation methods, but his approach to these experiences had always focused on projecting sophistication and worldliness rather than developing genuine appreciation for the craftsmanship, tradition, and technical skill involved in specialty coffee preparation. His travels had typically involved staying at luxury hotels and dining at expensive restaurants, where the coffee service was designed to appeal to general international tastes rather than showcase the unique characteristics of specific origins, processing methods, or roasting approaches. This exposure had given him misplaced confidence about his coffee knowledge without providing the technical understanding or sensory training necessary to evaluate quality objectively or appreciate the complexity that characterized truly exceptional coffee. The mention of roadside diners revealed the fundamental limitations of his actual experience with different quality levels and preparation standards, because someone with genuine expertise would have been able to identify and articulate specific defects, flavor imbalances, or technical problems, rather than making broad, emotionally charged comparisons to obviously inferior products. His inability to provide detailed, constructive feedback about specific characteristics of the coffee's taste, aroma, or mouthfeel suggested that his negative reaction was based on unfamiliarity with specialty coffee rather than legitimate quality concerns that could be addressed through adjustments to preparation methods or bean selection. Maya approached his table with the composed professionalism that she had learned to maintain during years of service work in high-end establishments, though her scientific background and analytical training allowed her to recognize immediately that Omar's complaints were entirely baseless and reflected ignorance rather than legitimate concerns about coffee quality or preparation standards. Her experience in chemical engineering had taught her to approach problems systematically, gathering data and testing hypotheses before drawing conclusions, while also learning to distinguish clearly between subjective preferences and objective technical standards that could be measured and evaluated consistently. The contrast between her methodical, evidence-based approach to problem-solving and Omar's emotional, assumption-based reaction to unfamiliar flavors illustrated the fundamental difference between educated evaluation and uninformed opinion. Her advanced training had emphasized the importance of intellectual humility, careful observation, and rigorous analysis when encountering unfamiliar phenomena, while his approach relied heavily on gut reactions, personal assumptions, and social positioning that had no basis in actual knowledge or systematic understanding of the subject matter. Her years of customer service experience in upscale establishments had also taught her to recognize the personality types who used public complaints as vehicles for demonstrating social power, rather than addressing genuine problems or seeking practical solutions. Omar's theatrical behavior, personal attacks on staff competence, and obvious desire for public attention suggested that his dissatisfaction had much more to do with establishing dominance and asserting his perceived superiority than with coffee quality, a pattern she had observed in other wealthy customers who confused the ability to spend money with genuine expertise or sophisticated taste. "I apologize that the coffee doesn't meet your expectations, sir," Maya said quietly, her tone remaining respectful and professional, despite the public humiliation that Omar's outburst was creating for both her personally and the establishment's reputation. "Would you prefer to try a different blend that might better suit your taste preferences? Or perhaps I could prepare this same coffee using an alternative brewing method that might create a flavor profile more aligned with what you're accustomed to drinking?" The offer to customize his coffee service demonstrated Maya's genuine commitment to customer satisfaction and professional problem-solving, but it also reflected her sophisticated understanding of how different preparation methods could highlight or minimize specific aspects of coffee's complex flavor profile. Her knowledge of extraction chemistry, grind size effects, water temperature variables, and brewing time parameters meant that she could actually improve his coffee experience significantly if he was willing to provide constructive feedback about his specific preferences, rather than simply complaining loudly and making personal attacks on the staff's competence and professionalism. Her diplomatic response also served multiple purposes. It attempted to de-escalate the confrontation by offering practical solutions, rather than becoming defensive about the criticism. It demonstrated the kind of emotional intelligence and conflict resolution skills that successful service workers developed through extensive experience with difficult customers, and it subtly challenged Omar to engage constructively with the technical aspects of coffee preparation, rather than simply venting his frustration through public complaints and personal insults. The technical knowledge underlying her offer was substantial and sophisticated, because different brewing methods could emphasize dramatically different chemical compounds in coffee and create significantly different sensory experiences from identical beans. French press brewing extracted more oils and created fuller body with less clarity. Pour-over methods emphasized brightness and acidity while showcasing origin characteristics, while espresso extraction concentrated flavors and created different balance between sweetness, bitterness, and acidity that might appeal to someone accustomed to more conventional coffee experiences. "I don't want alternatives," Omar snapped, his anger escalating as Maya's calm professionalism failed to provide the immediate submission and apology that he expected from service workers based on his previous experiences in similar establishments. "I want an explanation for how a place with these outrageous prices can serve such garbage to paying customers. Are you people completely incompetent? Or do you just not care about maintaining basic quality standards?" The accusation of incompetence was particularly ironic, given Maya's extensive qualifications and the cafe's genuine commitment to coffee excellence, but Omar's privileged perspective and assumptions about service workers prevented him from recognizing that his harsh judgment reflected his own limitations and ignorance, rather than problems with the establishment's standards, staff capabilities, or quality control procedures. His escalation of the conflict revealed that the underlying purpose of his complaint was not to improve his coffee experience or address legitimate concerns about service quality, but rather to establish his perceived superiority over people he viewed as socially and intellectually subordinate. The personal nature of his attacks and his refusal to engage with Maya's constructive suggestions suggested deep-seated prejudices about service workers and their assumed lack of education, expertise, or professional capability. His binary choice between incompetence and indifference demonstrated simplistic thinking that ignored the complexity of specialty coffee preparation and the possibility that his complaints might be based on incomplete understanding or unfamiliarity, rather than genuine quality problems that could be objectively identified and addressed. Other patrons throughout the terrace began to show visible discomfort with Omar's behavior, because his loud complaints, personal attacks on staff members, and theatrical displays of anger violated the social norms and expectations of civility that governed interactions in upscale establishments. The wealthy clientele valued discretion, sophistication, and appropriate behavior in public settings, and Omar's increasingly aggressive tantrum marked him as someone who lacked the social grace and emotional control that typically accompanied genuine elite status and proper upbringing. The contrast between his crude, emotionally driven behavior and the refined, understated atmosphere he was disrupting created embarrassment and discomfort for other customers who did not want to be associated with such displays of poor manners and lack of self-control. Several people began quietly signaling for their checks or discreetly moving to tables farther from the commotion, indicating their disapproval of Omar's conduct and their desire to distance themselves from the unseemly spectacle he was creating. "Sir, I understand you're disappointed with your coffee," Maya replied, maintaining her professional demeanor while her scientifically trained mind began to analyze the specific complaints that Omar was expressing and the underlying assumptions that seemed to be driving his negative reaction. "Could you describe what specific aspects of the flavor you found objectionable? Was it too acidic or bright for your preferences, too bitter or astringent, or perhaps not strong or bold enough compared to what you typically enjoy drinking?" The technical questions that Maya asked were carefully designed to gather specific information that could help her address Omar's concerns constructively and professionally, but they also demonstrated a depth of knowledge about coffee chemistry, flavor analysis, and sensory evaluation that most service workers wouldn't possess or be able to articulate with such precision. Her ability to discuss acidity, bitterness, strength, and other flavor characteristics as distinct and measurable components of coffee's taste profile reflected advanced understanding of how different variables in coffee preparation affected the final product's sensory base, characteristics, and overall quality. Her systematic approach to diagnosing the problem revealed the same analytical thinking and methodical problem-solving skills that had made her successful in her engineering studies, where complex technical challenges required careful evaluation of multiple variables and their interactions before effective solutions could be developed and implemented. The same intellectual rigor and attention to detail that had enabled her to understand sophisticated chemical processes and molecular interactions was now being applied to customer service in ways that far exceeded typical hospitality, training, or standard service protocol. The specificity and technical sophistication of her questions also served to highlight Omar's inability to articulate detailed, constructive complaints about the coffee's specific characteristics, because his initial reaction had been purely emotional and based on unfamiliarity rather than analytical assessment of measurable qualities. By asking for specific feedback about objectively identifiable flavor components, she was subtly challenging him to demonstrate the expertise and sophisticated palate he claimed to possess through his dramatic complaints and international travel experiences. "Don't try to confuse me with your technical nonsense," Omar responded, his frustration growing as Maya's knowledgeable questions revealed the depth of understanding that completely challenged his assumption that she was simply an uneducated service worker without relevant expertise or professional capability. Bad coffee is bad coffee, and anyone with properly developed taste buds can recognize when they're being served inferior products by people who obviously don't know what they're doing. The dismissal of Maya's technical expertise as nonsense revealed Omar's fundamentally anti-intellectual attitude and his deep-seated resistance to information that might challenge his preconceived notions about coffee quality or service worker capabilities. His insistence that coffee evaluation was simple and intuitive ignored the complex chemistry involved in specialty coffee preparation and the specialized knowledge required to optimize brewing parameters for different beans, origins, and processing methods. Rather than acknowledging that his understanding might be limited, he retreated into defensive generalizations that avoided the specific technical discussion Maya was attempting to initiate constructively. His response also demonstrated the classic defensive reaction that occurred when his assumed expertise was challenged by someone he had automatically dismissed as intellectually inferior based solely on her current job title and appearance. The cognitive dissonance between his prejudiced assumptions about service workers and the reality of Maya's sophisticated knowledge created psychological discomfort that he attempted to resolve by dismissing her expertise rather than reconsidering his own limitations, or acknowledging the possibility that he might learn something valuable from their interaction. The contradiction between his confident claims to sophisticated taste, based on international travel, and his complete inability to provide detailed, specific feedback about flavor characteristics was becoming increasingly apparent to the other customers who were listening, with growing interest to their exchange. His retreat into vague complaints about bad coffee and inferior products suggested that his initial dramatic reaction had been based on unfamiliarity with specialty coffee rather than genuine quality assessment, revealing the gap between his projected expertise and his actual knowledge of coffee evaluation and preparation standards. Maya's patience was being tested by Omar's increasingly aggressive behavior and his stubborn refusal to engage constructively with her professional attempts to address his concerns and find practical solutions to his dissatisfaction. However, her years of professional training in both engineering, problem-solving, and customer service, combined with her personal dignity and commitment to maintaining professional standards regardless of how she was treated, prevented her from responding with the anger or defensiveness that his treatment seemed specifically designed to provoke and justify. Her ability to maintain composure and professional focus under verbal attack demonstrated not only the emotional resilience that experienced service workers developed through repeated exposure to difficult customers, but also the analytical mindset and systematic approach to problem solving that had been ingrained during her scientific education and engineering training. Her commitment to finding solutions, rather than engaging in personal conflict, reflected the same intellectual discipline that had enabled her to succeed in one of the most demanding academic fields, despite significant financial and social obstacles. The growing disparity between her educational qualifications and current employment situation created additional psychological pressure and emotional complexity, because she was being treated dismissively and disrespectfully by someone whose actual knowledge in her area of expertise was clearly and demonstrably inferior to her own. The irony and injustice of the situation was not lost on her, but her current financial needs and long-term career goals required her to tolerate behavior and treatment that would have been completely unacceptable in professional engineering environments where her expertise and contributions would have been properly recognized and valued. "I have an idea that might help resolve this situation," Maya said, her voice taking on a tone of quiet confidence and professional authority that suggested she was about to fundamentally shift the dynamics of their interaction and demonstrate capabilities that would challenge all of Omar's assumptions about her background and qualifications. "What if I explain exactly how this particular coffee was prepared, including the specific technical details of the process, so you can understand the methodology involved and provide more informed feedback about what aspects might be adjusted to better suit your personal taste preferences?" The offer to educate Omar about professional coffee preparation was simultaneously a genuine attempt at comprehensive customer service and a calculated challenge to his claimed expertise, because Maya's extensive technical knowledge would soon reveal the significant gap between his confident complaints about quality and his actual understanding of coffee chemistry, preparation methods, and evaluation standards. Her decision to take intellectual control of the conversation represented a carefully calculated professional risk, because demonstrating her superior knowledge and expertise could either resolve the conflict by establishing her credibility and authority, or potentially escalate the situation by directly threatening Omar's ego and his carefully constructed public image of sophisticated worldliness. The educational approach she chose also served to transform their interaction from a traditional service complaint into a learning opportunity, potentially allowing Omar to save face by graciously acknowledging her expertise while discovering genuinely valuable information about coffee preparation and quality assessment. This diplomatic strategy reflected not only her understanding of coffee chemistry and preparation techniques, but also her sophisticated grasp of human psychology, social dynamics, and conflict resolution methods that could benefit both parties while maintaining professional dignity and customer satisfaction standards. Before we wrap this story up, I'd like to thank you for reaching this far. And if you enjoyed this story as much as I think you did, then be sure to show your support by liking and subscribing so this channel. Now, back to the story. Years later, when Maya's coffee company had become internationally recognized for innovation and quality. She would reflect on the morning when an arrogant customer's complaint had provided the unexpected opportunity to demonstrate her expertise and begin the journey toward professional success and recognition. The story became a powerful reminder that respect should be based on character and competence rather than economic status, and that service workers often possessed hidden talents and expertise that deserved recognition rather than condescension. Her success highlighted the importance of education and technical expertise in creating opportunities for advancement, demonstrating how specialized knowledge could transform individual circumstances and create pathways to fulfillment that transcended the limitations of current employment situations.